Baik, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to Prof. Taj, Mr. T. Thank you for accepting our invitation to share again on another topic. And thank you very much also to all the participants who would be able, who were able to spend your time to join for this morning session. Okay, hope that others will join in later. Well, today we have with us Prof. Taj, or normally we call it Mr. T, to share with us one topic that is related to our field, and the title is Charting Your Research Career. So I'm pretty sure as an academician, apart from doing our teaching and learning, as well as doing services like knowledge transfer, one of our core job scope is also in research. But today, we are not going to talk about how to conduct research, okay, and how to plan a research project, okay, because a research project is just considered as a short term that may take about 1 year to 3 years or a maximum of 5 years. But now we are talking about sustaining your research activity, okay, throughout your academic career, which may take 10 years, 20 years, or maybe even 30 years. So how, as an academician, you are going to embark on a journey to develop your career, especially in research. So today, we have here Prof. Taj from Institut Biodiversiti Tropika dan Pembangunan Lestari. Okay, he is currently a professor at IBPTL and with a vast experience of becoming chief editors and mentoring a lot of researchers, especially in publication and book writing. So we were very grateful to have him here today to share with us on how to chart your research career as an academician. So, Prof, how are you, Prof?
I'm fine. Thank you for the invitation. I like to apologize because we have postponed this a few times.
So finally, we can do it after. Actually, it should be done in July, but due to circumstances, so Alhamdulillah, we managed to do it this time around.
Okay.
Okay, Prof. So you can share your slide.
Okay. I'm sharing my slide now. So the topic given to me is how we are going to chart our career.
Yes, Prof.
Okay.
So how is it? How did you see the role of academician, especially in the universities, compared to other fields, and also in terms of research, Prof?
I think I agree that we have to chart our career. But when I entered that opportunity to chart my career, and I think it was by default rather than by design. So I think for the young academician, especially those having a PhD, recently a new minted PhD, you can do by design. So I think we are going to talk some principle and also give some example of the pathway. I think if you are in university, you must teach, you must do research, as well as you have to do mentoring, and you have to generate knowledge. So this is different if you are in school where you teach based on the existing knowledge, in the university you teach with the new knowledge that have been generated. Maybe thing that you are working on or your friend is working on and it's not been published. But in school, they will take all the knowledge from the publication and turn that into a textbook. So for university, you are dealing with student at bachelor degree, master's, PhD, as well as postdoctoral researcher, and they will be having higher degree. But in school, you are dealing with people who would memorize certain things. So in university, we expect you to move from the school into higher order thinking. I think you should know what is a career. It's a profession that you have to do it passionately, and you have to comply to your job description. You have to do it right. Unfortunately, in Malaysia, when you say about career, you talk about makan gaji, meaning that you get a salary. And you talk about kerja, just a job. Kerja kat mana? Kerja UMT. And sometimes it's not just a job, but you play golf with your boss, you go shopping, and you talk a lot of things. Cantik, your Lexus nampak baru beli, AMG baru beli. Perempuan dia akan cakap, oh ini bag baru ni. And yang latest edition, it will cost you 3.8 million. So those are the kind of talks that you hear. And during your career, along the way, you are looking for some recommendation, either for promotion purpose or you have to recommend someone else. Please interject, Shah, if you have anything.
So, Prof, when you say about job description, that is where you need to understand what is the job scope of a lecturer, right, of an academician.
Correct.
And that is where research comes into place, as well as
Correct.
teaching and also other service type.
Correct. When you receive the offer letter, normally you get excited how much you get paid. But you never read all the other document, especially that talks about your job. Sometimes they will not talk about the job, but they say, please discuss with your head of department. So the head of department would tell you, you have to teach 9 credit hours or maybe 12 credit hours when you are young, or maybe do research, one research and one grant and supervision of one student. So your head of department will tell you, all of those who enter to the institute, I will tell them, we are dealing with SDG 2030 and we are dealing with SDG 15. SDG 15 is life on land. And also we are going to deal with the wellness of the people. So those are for the social scientists. So when you try to do something else, then you have to justify, why are you doing rocket science? We are not doing rocket science in this institute, something like that. So it's very clear from the start. To be a scholar, you have to be wise. You must have some wisdom, or you learn some wisdom. you must be sincere and have deep interest of what you wanted to be. Sincere and deep interest. You must be willing to spend either your money, your energy, or your time. I asked my colleague, can you go to Kenya with me? Sorry, Prof, quality time with my family. Okay. I also have family, I also have plans and so on. But it depends how you put your priority. You must be willing to buy books. Ini yang jadi masalah orang kat Malaysia. They buy expensive car, kaya dengan harta, tapi dia jumut dengan buku, tidak mau beli buku. I have this habit of buying books. Every month I make sure I buy a book. So saya bagi contoh. Everybody talk about extinction, but how many of you will buy a book about extinction? So this is your modal where you learn the deep science. You must be having a lot of patience, sabar. Ini I met one scholar. The first day he met me, he asked me, you ingat in 5 years time I boleh jadi profesor? Dia baru register, tanya saya sama ada dia boleh jadi profesor. So you are so impatient. That is a wrong question. And ada juga top student came into my room and asked, do you have grant? There's none of your business to ask me I have the grant or not. So you are so impatient because you are a top student. You think that everybody wants you. So jangan, have to be very patient. You have to be respectful to your teachers. Ini lagi satu. Saya cakap dengan my friend, Dr. Lim Boliat is my mentor. Itu the other friend say, yeah, dia suruh I tulis paper. Then I say, yeah, I ada tissue paper. I mean, how come you say that? I have high respect to the late Lim Boliat, who was my mentor, among the mentor. And you must have good personality. You boleh ada good publication and so on, but your personality is very bad. People doesn't want you to be around.
Prof, it's just want to highlight when you mention about patience, sabar kan?
Sabar, yeah.
What you say is also true, because some of them they try to get as much research project as possible within 5 years time, hoping that within 2 years they can become associate professor already. And like you said also, within 5 years they are already a professor. So
I like
the focus is not on the acquirement or strength building, but on the KPI rather than the development of self-being.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Yes, I agree. I agree you 200%. I met one scholar. I think the H index about 17. Okay, 17. Saya punya H index is 10. But when I look back, who they are publishing, semua dengan orang putih. Menjela-jela top 10 researchers all orang putih. Then you ask this question. Tak ada ke orang Malaysia yang dia boleh mentor? You ask that question. So then you check into their acknowledgement part, is all the grant by the orang putih. So mana dia punya grant? And you wanted to become a professor by riding on somebody else's grant. So saya pernah mendapat phone call from other assessor. Tash, is this your grant or this person's grant? sebab dia mengaku that grant. I kata, with due respect to whoever you are assessing, that's my grant. Dia cuma my co-researcher. So because you are so impatient, so you claim what's not yours. Ini jadi penyakit dalam akademia. Dia tulis dekat situ benda yang tidak betul. You cuma jadi co-researcher. You are not the principal supervisor. You are not even principal grant holder. You are just a co-researcher. So jangan cakap banyak. Then you tell everybody my age index 17. Mengarut. Saya takkan lepas orang macam ni. So yes, try to be patient and wait for your turn. Show your merit. You tidak ada merit, orang tidak akan tengok. So there are some traits of a scholar. A scholar dia kena ada personality yang sangat baik. Ini orang, saya bagi contoh, orang yang personality yang sangat baik ialah Prof Ikhwan. If you know Prof Ikhwan, very humble person, very humble. So one day I met him in the field and I say, Prof, I nak balik tidur. Dia kata, okay, you go ahead. Then I say, yeah, I'm going to the homestay. And he told me, sorry, I'm going to sleep on the beach because I have to wake up to check certain thing. So he slept on the beach. A professor sleeping on the beach. So I was taken aback and I felt very embarrassed that I have to sleep in a nice homestay. And you must know how to prioritize your work. Director of Institute ajak you pergi. And I think there's something wrong here. So saya pernah call Prof Dr. Khatijah. Saya cakap hari besok kita ada presentation and can you accompany me? So she told me, okay, I will accompany you, but I have to drop other things. So dia accompany saya, but she dropped all other things because I really need her to accompany me for the meeting to defend our project. So kadang-kala benda tu berlaku dengan sepintas lalu. If you are a postdoc, you have to conduct yourself in a manner to show that you are an intellectual with good behavior. Bila dapat postdoc, ini berlaku. Saya ada postdoc. I told my postdoc, I'll meet you at 8:30. And they came at 9:30. They didn't even say, I'm sorry, kereta saya accident ke, tak ada, dia just ketuk duduk. So nampak you have not been having good behavior. Ini postdoc level. Kalau a postdoc showing that sort of behavior, do you think that the university should take him or her into the academia? I don't think so. So those are the little things that we have to know about traits of a scholar.
Attitude also comes into place, Prof.
Yeah. Time. You respect people waiting 1 hour and you don't have this attitude to wait, but I have to wait 1 hour. So that's not very good. And if you ever heard of parental principle, this happened everywhere in the world. Everywhere. Sometimes you only need to do 20% of the work that will give you 80% of the output. Okay? That means kalau you ada 10 things to be done to get 100%, sometimes you just focus on the top 2 to get almost 80% of the entire work. Atau sometimes only 20% of the people in the office putting up their time, money, and effort to get 80% of the output. Ini berlaku juga.
That means the rest too, Prof?
Okay, the rest. You go the next one, herd thinking. 50% are bystander. So they just look. You want to die or you want to live, they just look. And you have 30% are going to be your opposer. Okay? You say anything, they will oppose. And you only have the 20% as transformers, movers, who really move the institute, who move the university. So,
Prof, sorry Prof. Prof boleh turunkan sikit kamera tak? Sebab dia orang kata muka Prof nampak separuh. Okay.
now,
Alright, okay.
I'm sorry, I cannot see my face. It's full sort of, boleh ya?
Okay.
Okay. Then you talk about research. Somebody define research and then I modify a lot of things. It's a systematic inquiry and you try to describe, you try to explain, you try to predict, you try to control the observed phenomena. And you must have method, and it can be inductive or it can be deductive. But what Mr. Earl Robert Barbie forget to tell us is that you must be able to interpret the result, or you form your own opinion and generate new hypotheses and tell us what is the implication of your research, and you publish. There's no point you do research but you never publish. So if you are in research right now and you don't publish, then I think you have to go and work in a scholar. It's no more in university level. When you started your research, you must have the theoretical or the conceptual framework. This one I borrow somebody's framework and I modify. Okay, you can work on the SDG platform and try to solve the problem about the transmission of the disease. What sort of microbe, what sort of population, human populations are going to get the disease, and what are the environmental factors, the social, political, or economic factors, or maybe the biological, other biological factors like genetic and so on, or maybe the ecological factors that have an influence on your disease in that area. And if you have done the work, then what would be the impactful output of that work? Sometimes you say, oh, my impactful output is Q1 publication. That is wrong. That is wrong. So your impactful output will be the SOP on how to prevent the disease, or you have these preventive measures against the disease. That will be the impactful output of your research. Then it will be an SOP for the country or for the world.
So, Prof, by having that framework, is it we can say that we can focus ourselves so that we don't become rojak?
Yes. Yang jadi rojak sebab dia tak ada framework. Dia tidak ada framework. Dia terjun je masuk. Somebody say, I've seen, this is happening right now. I've seen somebody been taken as a botanist and working on fish. A botanist working on shrimp. A botanist working on non-botanical thing. And tidak ada satu pun publication about botany. So I'm very concerned. Rojak ni because tidak ada framework of what you really wanted to do and what you expect to do. Yes, very good question.
That means for anybody who start, especially for the, I can say, young or new academician, it's better rather than straight away jump into a research. Might as well better create a framework first so that you can chart yourself and see how your journey will progress.
Correct. I was lucky when I entered the university. Somehow, bila saya masuk Unimas, they say, Tash, you kena jumpa dengan VC. Saya menggigil dengar nama VC, Dato Zawawi. Dan bila saya masuk jumpa VC, the VC letak tangan dia atas bahu saya. Tash, thank you for coming and be in this university. Saya terperanjat besar, and then dia kata, Tash, let's go have laksa. And actually during that laksa session, I heard they were talking about research, publication, and so on. So I just sit there listening to these professors. So the VC brought his top management for a laksa session, makan laksa. But during that laksa session, they were talking about the framework of research in the university. So kalau a professor ajak you minum, makan, and so on, never say no, just jump in and dengar apa dia bercakap. Yeah. At least you have some framework.
I get the idea and framework.
Correct. Yes. At least I know what the university punya expectation from me when I enter the university, and what they wanted in 5 or 10 years from now. So tadi is your conceptual framework, the theoretical part. Now your research framework. You must have a central question about your research framework. You kena ada satu thesis statement. So when I came here, my thesis statement was very simple. I said, why we are rich in biodiversity, but the orang asli is very poor. That's all. Itu saja saya punya statement. And then you have to ask why, kenapa, mengapa, then how to do it, and then how much I have to find out a sample, whether Semak Meri or other population, and where they are, and when I should do the work, and so on. So these are your framework of your research. So you have the theory, the concept, and your research framework. Ada dua framework that you must have as a researcher. This is a very panas punya publication, Q1 publication just came out. And I just like to highlight, this research started in the year 2012.
8 years ago.
8 years ago, and it's only today been published. So on the left, Dr. Aida, she was doing PhD with me, and I got a grant, a $500,000 grant, and we were asking simple question. Do the animal have lost their DNA? So, or sorry, not DNA, but gene. And during her study, she found that certain animal lost the taste receptor. So then that explains why that kind of animal will not eat fruits. Kalau dia makan fruit, because they lost the taste receptor, the chances dia akan kembung perut, it get bloated. and they have problem. So because of that, the animal avoid all the fruits and will eat only leaf. On the right is another research started in 2012 by Dr. Latif UTHM, and he found that there are two different populations of the leaf monkey, one in the north, one in the south. So bila tengok lagi to the biogeography, oh ini relate to our last glacial maximum, and maybe they were separated into different refugia. Satu refugia in the north, satu lagi refugia in the south, in the Johor and Melaka area. So that explain, and I think they have only two mutation, dua mutation saja yang menyebabkan they become two different subspecies. But the paper came out 8 years after their first thought of the question. So sebab tu saya kata kena sabar, be patient. So don't rush. It doesn't mean that you have great research, a lot of money, you will produce like a paper mill. No. So it's going to be very, very hard work, very, very long time to get the paper out. Now, your role as a researcher is to have practical application of theory. That's why I say conceptual framework, or law, or principle, or concept. So you must be able to conceptualize something. So sometimes saya akan jaga, oh, I have conceptualized blah, 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 blah for my FRGS. Then you have to design. You must be able to design. Saya pernah juga pergi defend of grant, and they ask simple question, what is your experimental design? And the person yang minta grant cakap, I know my work, I've been doing this for the last 10 years. That's not your design. You don't answer the question. So you have to tell how do you collect your sample. And you must be able to observe. If you cannot observe because you are heading an institute or because you are a professor, very busy, then you have to train somebody, your student. You have to train to observe, train to collect data, train to record, to make proper record and proper catalog. Then you must be able as a researcher to analyze, interpret, write, revise, write, review and revise, and think about the implication of your research. Why are you doing your research? Oh, saja aja, I want to be in Q1. Stop doing that kind of research if you don't know the implication of your research. The role as author. All authors must be with that subject matter. They must know the theoretical and the conceptual framework, should be able to brainstorm, to listen to everybody. Listen. Sometimes we don't want to listen. Bila saya cakap, dia orang kata, Prof, you cakap benda ni basi lah. Dia kata benda basi. It's okay, saya tidak marah, okay lah basi. But then I get the grant. Then you should be able, as an author, to get involved in drafting, review, revise, and resubmit. These are your authors. Okay?
Prof, regarding when you talk about just now the research framework, right?
Yeah.
And then you were mentioning the role of as a researcher, and you must have something in mind and what are the problems that you want to solve or generate. But
Correct.
okay,
Correct.
kind to think of it, there are some who, for example, when their focus is about getting grants only, so they tend to jump from one thing to another as long as they live with grants. So what do you think of that
I think
in their journey to chart their career in research?
ini orang tak sabar ni. Orang tak sabar. You must have academic or research maturity. Dia macam buah. Buah tu kena masak. Dia bukan masak guna kabai, but kena masak naturally. So if your intention to write any grant and to get money for your KPI, I think your assessor can smell that when they look at your application to be a professor. Dia boleh bau, dia boleh baca. Oh, dia ni sana dia buat, sini dia nak buat. And at the end of the day, you become the jack of all trade and master of none. Okay? Rocket science you buat, pergi bulan you buat, pergi dasar laut you buat, tengok pokok you buat, semua you buat. Then what is your subject matter expert? Tidak ada. So I'm sorry, if you want to write grant, make sure it's focused in your application of knowledge and also application of theory, and how does that theory have an implication of that whatever concept or the environment or about the society that you are dealing with.
Because Prof, you can see that in some cases like in PTJ, normally they will ask in WhatsApp group, okay, we have this research, who want to join? And then and you can see that the culture, anybody when they ask in the group who wants to join this research, then you can see a lot of people will raise their hand and wanted to join. So that is the thing that I see right now in most of the, not only, I can say in most of the universities, right? So as long as we have this research, siapa nak join, please come in. Then you can see everybody get interested in. Even though sometimes, can we, for example, not necessarily be involved in that particular research? Because as you said, if we have a proper framework, some of the research that we think that is not in our framework, we can just abide from it, right?
Correct. I agree entirely with you. Sometimes when I get that sort of message, I will tell them that when you get the data, I can help you to publish, and I can help you to get a Springer book done. So itu the least I can help, but I'm not the member of that team. So yeah, I agree. Please don't jump into everything. Orang nak study mayat, you nak study mayat. Orang nak study burung, you nak study burung. Orang nak study pokok, you nak study pokok. And then at the end of the day, you tak menjadi sesiapa. So please try to avoid, if you are a young PhD or a young lecturer. I've seen this happening in one research institution. This fellow started with zoology. Dia publish zoology dengan Dr. Lim Boliat, and suddenly stop publication and start to publish on plant. Tetapi because dia punya training in zoology, when you try to work on plant, the depth is not there. So as a person who have been reading biod papers, then I say, wow, it's very, very shallow. So we know that this fellow had been jumping here and there. So try not to do that. Okay, then we ask the question, who are the authors? Principal investigator or principal researcher, yeah, should be an author. The data owner, person who own the data, can be your author. Your co-researcher who have made intellectual contribution from the beginning. And I have seen many times you have parachute authors. I have appointed several co-researchers, and I knew them because I signed the letter of appointment. And when come to publication, I saw names that shouldn't be in the author line. And recently, one of the paper published, I asked one of the researcher who is the expert in this author line. I asked. Then they say Dr. X and Y. And then I say, then how about ABC? Oh, ini dia punya kawan-kawan. So you see, even the author in that paper say, oh, kawan-kawan dia, your BFF, best friend forever, your partner, your boyfriend. Oh my God, I have one paper, dia medical doctor and having a paper in plant. Tapi kalau talk about medical guna rempah ratus to treat some disease is okay, but this has nothing to do with that sort of treatment for patient. Sometimes political connection. Saya withdraw one of the paper on the rhinoceros because when I asked the corresponding author, who is this person, additional name. So she said, oh, he's my boss. Then I say, with due respect to your boss and you, I withdraw from this paper. So saya withdraw my name from this paper. Sebab it's a political connection rather than intellectual contribution. Because kami, saya dengan rakan-rakan saya, we were in the field collecting the data and were doing the real work. And somebody as a boss, as a dean, as a director, suddenly jump in as a author, so I withdraw. And there are cases where somebody cakap, Tash, I got something, maybe you are interested. He showed me a datum which changed the whole idea about the distribution and so on. So I use the data and I say, I would like to invite you as our co-author because you provide this important data or datum. And there have been cases, I saw long name and I asked, who are these people? Oh, these are my committee member. You put the entire committee member in the paper. I'm sorry, please stop doing that because one day your assessor will find out and you will never get your professorship and so on. So that is the danger of doing that. And please mind you, I receive a lot of calls from other institutions asking me, Tash, do you know this paper? Or do you know this grant? Or do you know blah, 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 blah? And I say what should be said. So saya minta maaf kalau terkena pada you or your friend or so on, but you have to review what you are doing now. So ada orang yang dia panggil reciprocal authorship. I give you one authorship, you give me one authorship.
So that is reciprocal. You get from me, then get from you.
Dia macam, hey, you come and play golf dekat saya punya club. Nanti I pergi KL, I play at your club free. So they have reciprocal co-authorship. And I can give you names if you want name. Okay? Bila orang tu jadi pengarah, nama orang tu ada. Bila orang tu jadi ini, orang tu ada. Bila to the extent they put things that are not dalam bidang orang yang dia letak nama tu. So ada orang dalam HRM keluar paper programming. And I ask the first author, kenapa you letak nama dia ni? Dia ni bukan HRM. Dia my boss, kena letak. Kalau tidak mati ai. Ni susah lah. Another one, saya chief editor JSSM. I ask kenapa nama ni appearing here? So dia jawab, oh ni my act supervisor, and dia cakap kalau you publish in the future you must put dia punya nama. I said this is bullshit. Strike out or you never publish dekat sini. So dia buang nama. Ini apa punya arrangement? A supervisor become a predator to a scholar. So scholar, please stop doing that. If your supervisor cakap macam tu, in the future you just find another person to work. So that is not the kind of thing that you should be having. Saya juga ada postdoc, and unfortunately the requirement of the postdoc is saya kena jadi dia punya supervisor or mentor, and my name should be there. Okay. So kadang bukan bidang saya, but this is how the arrangement is. I also have papers last year, papers. Then Prof Joe called me or text me, and also the library also text me. Prof Taj, ini student you ke? Saya kata ya. Yeah, this is index paper, but without your name, we consider not UMT paper. I say okay lah, sebab dia yang collaborate with other researcher. So my name did not appear there, walaupun mereka my student, sebab saya tidak ada kaitan dengan that sort of publication. So you have this thing going on. Just because you nak dapat cemerlang, you put your director, your dean punya nama, and so on. So kesian to the young scholars, the young lecturers. Please think about it. This is your future, I know, but please the decan or the director, please be fair to your lecturers and researchers. Being a supervisor, ini another part of your career. I've seen this PhD. Dia cakap, Mr. T, you ni strict sangat lah. Biarlah student you enjoy. Saya cakap, okay, I strict. I ni bukan strict, saya decisive. That's all. You are with me or you are not with me. Senang je. Tak ada istilah I sit in the middle. No. You dengan saya atau you are not doing research with me. But if you are doing research with me, these are my plan for you. You have to do your thinking about what you wanted to do. I will show you how to do it. And then you have to collect data, analyze, interpret, and you must publish. So dia orang kata strict. But I'll show you after this. The top 5 students are my top co-author, not my superior, not my colleague, but my student. So it shows that I'm working with my student to mentor them to become scholars. So yang jadi masalah ialah supervisors are training their student to become technician. Buat ni without any reasoning. And publish ni, they publish. Bila masuk dalam interview, we ask simple question. Why the fish in Peninsula is not the same with Sabah, but sama dengan the fish in Sarawak. Bila saya tanya tu, Prof Mazlan jawab. Saya cakap, Prof Mac, ini bukan you yang punya interview. So, Prof Mac kata, aku tak tahan lah. Dia tak boleh jawab. So, these are the result of the supervisor training the PhD as technician. Dia tak tahu the theory. Dia ada theory dia that the last glacial maximum, all the rivers were connected except dekat Sabah. So the fish here having the DNA imprint in Sarawak. Itu saja the theory. So you must know very, very strong background, theory, knowledge, and then barulah you menjadi supervisor. So what I did was, last time, PhD, newly minted PhD, I said, okay, can we co-supervise? So one of the newly minted PhD said, no, I nak supervise sendiri. Oh my God. And the student dia, saya ingat 5-6 tahun baru nak habis master dengan PhD. As a researcher, you must be a principal researcher. First, you have to work with professors and senior researcher. So you have to know that these are the people having strong research and publication record. Work with them on your FRGS. Then only you lead a research. After learning from the professors, then you lead. And you also try to get involved later on. After you gain a lot of knowledge, you try to get involved on the RGS, RGS, and so on. And you must publish. Within 12 months, you should be able to publish the checklist of whatever in this new area that's not been published before. So ini yang jadi masalahnya. When my student were working in 3 different study area, so ada pula student lain mana-mana komen, kau orang ni bodoh lah. Tengok kami relax aja. Kami research dekat Kenyir aja. But my student went to Kenyir, went to Setiu, and went to the island, of course, Coast Island in Terengganu. But tengok, when you check balik, student yang komen my student, dia punya publication tak ke mana juga. So giving good exposure, good training, you have good publication. Then the student during the Ramadan, Mr. T, kami nak rehat lah. Saya kata engkau bagi apa ni fatwa kata bulan puasa boleh tidur dan tak kerja. So they went to work and they have 1 year data. Termasuk bulan puasa, hari hujan, hari panas, semua ada data. So itu yang orang marah dengan saya. Saya very decisive. Saya bukannya strict but decisive. Because I know having 12-month data is better than having 6-month data. Okay, dia orang kata, alah, kita universiti kecil. We don't have the resources. Oh my God, I think you are so lucky. UMT provided the facilities on par with the RU. So you have the resources that you can go into Web of Science, or you can go to Scopus, or you can go to Science Direct. It's all being paid by the university. If you are staff, if you are student, you have the world at your fingertip. So these are the tools already provided by the university. Make use. Saya punya postdoc, bila saya cakap, please check your Web of Science. Macam mana nak buat? At postdoc level, kalau you don't know how to go into WS, you are in big trouble. So these are the tools. On your left, if I put my name, Abdullah MT, I will only get 42 documents. But if I put Abdullah MT and my full name, and also University Malaysia, because there are a lot of Abdullah MT apparently, especially from Pakistan and Bangladesh. So when I put another factor of University Malaysia, then it will weed out all the other publications from other countries. So this is the report that you can generate very easily you can do at your house. I'm doing this in my house normally, and you can get your citation report, or on the right your research area. If you are in zoology, you must have papers in zoology. If you are in biodiversity, you must have paper in biodiversity, and it shows up. It shows up. Tapi kalau you are in biod and you have other thing, if you are a botanist and you have other thing in there, then people start to ask you a lot of things.
That means,
Pardon? I'm hearing a background noise.
this is one of the way that we can track our development in our research, right? As an
Correct.
academician, yes. After we are
Correct.
published, then we can see where we are right now.
Correct. So you see, I can say that I'm working on zoology because my top paper, 36 paper or over 50% of my paper are in zoology. So this kind of thing that the assessor will check. They will check if you claim that you are an oceanographer, but your paper on conservation, then there's something wrong with you. Okay, you cannot claim ini berbeza oceanographer and conservation biology, two separate things. You have to check this research area in the Web of Science. So be careful when you write in your reports and also your application for your professorship and so on. Scopus, the same thing. I have 3 different names. So I must register all my 3 different names, and they recognize 93 papers from the 3 names. And then you go to H-graph, the other one icon called H-graph. On the right, you can check. My index is 10. So I can go to index 12 if the 2 paper, the 11 and 12 paper can be cited 12 times. So that's why when I have my publication published, I send to the whole world, and they say, Prof, you silap hantar ni. Saya kata, ya lah, I saja hantar. Kalau you ada paper baru, hantarlah pada I. So just in case you want to cite my paper, this is the original paper. So you have to send to everybody to let them know you have paper for publication. You can do that in Scopus, and you can do it at your house, paid by UMT. So saya sangat bangga dengan UMT kerana memberi kemudahan ini. Not every university have this. Saya dah pergi to other IPTA, they say, macam mana UMT ada? See, kami menjaga, UMT menjaga researcher. Okay, on the left, you look on the left, I have 150 co-author. Azwan Roslan having 12 paper with me, and dia master student at UMT. Shafi, dia ni apa ni, statistician and modeler. When I came here, the first thing I said, I need a statistician and modeler to work on our biod data, to work on the framework of SDG and so on. So of all the person, Shafi Lola angkat tangan, okay, I'll work with you. And bukan student ni, colleague ya. Aidil Zahidin was my student. Afiq my student. Gertrude my student. Faisal is my colleague, and Elizabeth was my student. Edino, my colleague from USM, and Muhammad Rizwan was my student. So from 10 top authors, 6 was or were my students. And if you look on your right, subject area journal. If you say you are doing zoology and you are in mammal, make sure you publish in the Journal of Mammalogy. So atas tu nampak ada 2 paper in mammalogy, and you have to publish in all the mainstream journal dealing with mammal. Dia orang kata, oh susahlah Prof nak publish dalam index journal. I think tak susah. Yang susahnya kita tak mencuba, and you never write. But if my student having 12 paper while 24 months in UMT, now you have to reflect and ask yourself, how many years are you in UMT? Student saya 24 bulan ada 12 paper. Meaning that it's about every 6 months. Dia ada paper at 12, so half a year ada paper. So kenapa as a lecturer you ada PhD better than my student ni master student, macam mana dia boleh dapat 12 paper? So kena tanya, kena reflect. So ada antara paper yang dipublish oleh Azwan, oleh Gertrude, oleh Aidil adalah paper in Web of Science. So one of the paper, genetic paper of Aidil, changed the existing theory about the migration, the genetic migration from Africa into Peninsula. Then ada orang mau shortcut. Dia tengok, oh this conference will give you publication. Then you all go to those conference. Then after a while, some will ask me, Mr. T, I pergi conference ni, dia kata ada publication. Tapi tak nampak pun. Saya kata, you kena scam. So ada conferences, dia scam you. And some of the conference is index. I have that sort of paper. Nobody wanted to cite my paper, okay? Because some of this conference paper were not really peer reviewed, okay? They just knock next door and give to their friend to read and they publish. And then it's corpus index. Nobody, I have several of those, my student went to conference, published, and sampai sekarang 0, and one of the paper 1 citation. And one of somebody recently cakap, I'm putting your name in my paper. I say, sorry, I'm not in your subject matter. Oh, no, you must be my co-author. Sorry, I am not your guest non-expert author. So ini untuk menjaga you dan juga you punya publication. So kadang-kala dia orang tanya, saya ada paper with, saya akan tunjuk sebentar lagi, long name. And they even question me, Tash, you are just a passenger in this paper. It's okay, but I have proof that I'm not a passenger. Sometimes you have specialized journal. So one of the specialized journal is the Sarawak Museum Journal. Borneo is the 3rd largest island in the world and is the center of evolution in the world. If you publish there, the chances people will read and cite your paper. So, bila paper ni keluar, saya tunjuk pada dekan dan juga saya punya VC. Dia orang cakap, I say, Tash, publish lah dalam paper ISI. Dulu dipanggil ISI. Ini Sarawak punya jurnal, siapa mau baca? Well, I'm sorry, to tell you now Q1 journal are citing that Sarawak Museum Journal paper. So they cite, and there are some books that cite our data that have been published in Sarawak Museum Journal. Some are published in MNS, Malay Nature Journal, JTBC, and also BJRST. So the citation now give the legibility to make it legit about your data and your research. So dulu orang kutuk, sekarang ada orang luar negara daripada Cambridge citing our paper. This is another paper in BJRST, but been cited 38 times, and most of the citation in WS journal. So siapa kata tidak boleh pakai? So with due respect to CREAM as well, some journal they may not be in Scopus or they may not be in WS, but people will cite your data, will cite your work because we found things that they have not found. And there are cases, banyak cases in the world that is being published in unknown journal but been highly cited. Then you talk to everybody. Kita cakap banyak, cakap sana, cakap sini. Then people cite you. Boleh makan singgang and boleh merawat your COVID-19. This is becoming very embarrassing. Sometimes they ask me, I say, I don't know this person. And even a top professor from University of Malaysia, Dr. Profesor Sazali cakap mana boleh makan ikan singgang boleh rawat COVID-19. And ada juga some research try to quantify what is the weight of the soul. And they publish the weight of the soul is 21 gram, and that become the title of a movie. So macam-macam pseudoscience. Ini satu lagi pseudoscience. They talk about ni bomo. Ni dia boleh jumpa ni apa ni MH yang hilang.
MH370.
Yeah. And then ada pula somebody get grant, ini government grant untuk kaji hantu. And kena left and right. So because the government now give you grant, okay, I give you 2 title, why not you try these 2 title, maybe you can get grant as well. So this unnatural, in boleh land, unnatural science is now having grant to do that. So I get very excited as well. Maybe I will try to get money nak kaji something like that. Supernatural. One day this famous professor, dia masuk dalam zoo kami, Zoo Melaka. I was the director there. Oh, Taj, you have old rhino. Oh my God, I say, biar betul Profesor ni. Actually, when the animal doesn't walk in the vegetation, there is no natural haircut. So when they walk in the forest, they have natural haircut. When they stay in the zoo, the hair grow long and so on. Then another Om Putih datang cakap, Taj, I think the weight of the animal is wrong. We use balance made from Australia to weigh cattle in Australia. And I say, what's your weight? Dia kata 90. Then saya tunjuk, is this your weight? Dia kata, yeah. Then I put the rhino on the balance, and it weighed less than what was published. So Habak, ini Om Putih, dia tak pernah weigh pun. He was a hunter and he just say something And everybody believe because dia orang putih. Bila orang putih cakap, semua orang percaya. Then another guy came to our zoo and said, Tash, your elephant is smaller lah. Yeah, I say, yeah, it's small because what you have seen are African elephant, which is big. The Malayan elephant is small. So these are the things that you kena fikir, you kena jangan ikut, and you must be able to rebut things. Then there are people who came to me say, Tash, I can do anything for you. Oh, ini sangat bahaya. Dia boleh buat roket, dia boleh scuba, dia boleh buat semua benda. Ini sangat bahaya. So I have list and list of things that I went through, and I regret in my life because kita kadang terlampau busy, kita percaya orang. So I lost two important animal. One is the hawk badger, the other one is the Malay teledu. So sampai hari ini saya tidak menulis about these two special animal and very rare, and it can change the distribution pattern in the books because I was hoping my friend would help me. Actually, dia buang je the specimen that's very rare. So sometimes you have people who do pseudoscience and you are doing science, but you don't know that bila you keluar je dia buang you punya sample. This is happening. When you do science, sample is very important. Walaupun seko ikan, kena simpan baik-baik. Okay, I want to show some example of pathway. I have a friend who was having just SPM, and he was a technician, but we trained him. When I wanted to go to the field for 1 week, the dean said, no, I will release you for 3 days and you have to come back. We have a lot of work in the faculty because I was the program coordinator and then the head of department. So I got 3 days and the rest of the work should be run smoothly by all the other person, and one of them is Wahab Marni. So we set up the experiment, show how to collect the data and so on. And at the end of the day, I would just check all the data, all the sample, verify them, nothing wrong. And he became my author while he was just C19. And then it forced him to take his bachelor degree and do a lot of tutoring to ensure that he understands. And he graduated, promoted to 41, and now is a 44. So from SPM to go to 44, the only person in dia punya kampung having that sort of experience, and now he can talk that to his son and his daughter. Another person is Dr. Faisal. So he came in with STPM, but he wanted to become a medical doctor. Tak dapat kursus medical, dapatlah kursus something else in science, graduated, and we took him as our tutor. And while he was a tutor, he published his work, and I have to retrain him to do some work. So he get his master's, PhD, then become a senior lecturer, then an associate professor, now a director of some PTJ in IPTA. So his H index is already 10, sama dengan saya. Yang ni terima kasih saudara Shahreza for sharing your slide. You don't mind?
Aha.
Very good slide. Very good slide. Everybody must print this slide and paste in your room. Saya bagi ini excellent slide. Saya bila tengok slide ni saya jadi malu. But I have to show you. I give this one memang extraordinary. So
Tapi Prof, AP tu belum lagi Prof.
okay. Sorry lah, I already give you. So you are actually, you know what you are doing. You ask me, you know what you are doing. You have this framework already. You wanted to work on the genetic of the fish. And you wanted to do breeding and look at the classical genetic. And you want to do at the molecular, gene isolation, gene expression, and so on. So you already have that framework. This is very good. And you are on track. If you ask me, you are on track.
Prof, can I share a bit on this, Prof?
Yeah, please.
Because just to since last time you asked me to put up also, actually when I first started as a tutor, so I was told that I will be in the group of fish genetics. So during that time, I try to framework my development of knowledge. So I look at it. Prof, can you go back one slide now? And another, the previous. So when I see at it, I told as a fish geneticist, I need to have two focus. One is on the fish breeding, the classical aspect, and the other is molecular. So because of that, my masters, I focus on the classical genetics to acquire that knowledge. So I do more on the crossbreeding. And after that, my PhD, since I know that I will be a fish geneticist, I must have a strong background on these two. So the next focus is on the development of the molecular. So coming back from the PhD, Prof.
Yeah.
I know that PhD is just a starting point. So the first 5 to 7 years, I focus on building the expertise. So again, I map again, what are the expertise that I need to have if you were to be called an expert in fish breeding and genetics. Fish breeding and genetics, Prof, is actually pembiak-bakakan. It's not pembiakan. But in English, they call it fish breeding and genetics.
Okay.
So the first 5 to 7 years, my focus is on building the expertise on the list of the things that I have put on, because otherwise people will say you are an expert, but you haven't done anything around this thing.
Okay.
So after 5 to 7 years, then I start to have my research focus. And that is where I have these two research focus that I'm aiming for the next 10, 15 years to come. So currently now, this is my research focus, and which I also develop my visibility based on these two research focus. And hopefully at the end of the career, I can be called as an expert in fish breeding and genetics. So my framework is to ensure that I don't be a rojak man in the future, so that people can see me through my CV that I'm truly an expert in fish breeding and genetics. And currently,
good.
Currently for the last slide, at the moment, I have for the past 14 years, since I started as a lecturer in 2006, currently with 35 publications at the moment, and started off by becoming a co-researcher with Prof. Noor, Prof. Abul, Prof. Anwar, and also Prof. Ikhwan, and also having the experience of leading 5 projects, FRGS, and also currently having 10 students graduated, 1 PhD as my main, and 2 as a co-SD, and for masters 3 as a main, and 4 as a co-SD. That one not including the current one who will be having their Viva in the next 4 or 5 months coming. So that is just a glimpse of part of my how I chart my research career as to be an expert in fish breeding and genetics, Prof.
Yeah, Shah, I think you are on track. You are on track. Just do the work and publish. You are on track. You supervise. You are on track, and also now you are holding an admin post. But just keep doing that. And I think one day I would want to call you a professor, yeah? Professor Shah, something like that. So you are on track. At least you have a vision there. One day at level 4, you are the fish expert. But not just a fish expert, but fish breeding and genetics. So dah fish, and then you go into the breeding and genetics. So that's very good, very focused. Janganlah buat benda-benda yang mengarut. At the end of the day, they will know, people find you. Don't worry about that. So kalau if you work in a university and you say, no lah, I don't want to become professor, then you better get out and sell burger at the roadside. If you are a researcher in a university, at the end of the day, you have to be a professor. But you must show what is a professor about. It's all about what do you profess. So yang you akan profess ialah fishery, breeding and genetics. That's what you are going to profess. Okay, this is MTA. This is me. So when my teacher asked me, kau nak jadi apa ni? Saya kata nak jadi kerani, cikgu. I just want to be a clerk. Because in my kampung, at that point of time, the clerk is everything in the world. So I got my family, yang jadi clerk is better off than my father, a farmer, and my mother who make cookies. And after my Malaysian Certificate of Education, I got into ITM diploma, and it was on the reserve list. Then I work, then I do my bachelor, then I say I'm still incomplete, so I get married. While I was a student, then I carry on, do my masters, came back and work. Then this is where I have the transition from the wildlife department into the university. But Professor Charlie cakap, tak apa, you datang je sana, tak payah buat PhD. So I was so happy not doing PhD. But on the second meeting, my dekan cakap, Tash, bila you nak buat PhD? Dan nasib Prof Charlie kata tak payah buat PhD. Itu dulu, sekarang you dah jadi lecturer, you kena buat PhD. So I was an old man trying to do PhD. By the age of 47, I got my PhD. 2003, I got my PhD, and also I get my associate professor, and 5 years later I got my professorship, and then I moved from Unimas to UMT. So terima kasih pada Dato IBK for taking me in and trusting in me, and also to Dato VC sekarang, Prof Dato Noraini, for I think she gave me 4-time extension. People were wondering, macam mana engkau ni kena extend je. Saya kata saya tak tahu. If they give me a job, I will do it. That's all. So terima kasih banyak. And so initially I have Scopus and ISI paper. And then for a long time, for several years, I have local publication. So all the local journal, I have my papers, and this is where I built my expertise, having this journal and also chapters, book chapters and so on. Then I get back into Scopus, or last time they call ISI, Web of Science, and chapters as well as book. So there are some stages where you are doing something and then you move on, but you move for the better. Okay, this is something that we have done. It's being presented in Thailand, but we never write a paper. But this slide is been uploaded in ResearchGate, and people are citing the slide, not the paper. So sometimes share whatever you have. Jangan sorok-sorok. Don't put it in your cabinet or in your dustbin. Share it. And that paper presentation in 2007, having 8 citations and majority are in Q1 journal. Because it's very hard for you to go into the cave in Borneo. It's very, very difficult. I have to use my own car. I have to rent my car. We have to use our own money because I don't get any money and so on. And when you upload in ResearchGate, you try to generate DOI and connect that to your Scholar, Google Scholar. So even if you click on this DOI, it will give you it will send you to this presentation, full presentation. So people will see our raw data about those caves and what are found in those caves. So this is one of my regret, that being very lazy, we don't publish from our presentation. This is another paper. When I went for my interview, one of the panelists said, Tash, you are number 10 in that paper. So you must be a free rider. Then I say, Prof, with due respect to you, please turn to page so and so. There is a line saying that funding provided by the Ministry of Science and Technology under IRPA grant. And all those students they did not write this IRPA grant. I wrote the IRPA grant with all the methods, literature review, and all the expectation, output, and so on. So it's impossible that I'm the writer. No, I'm not the writer of this paper. So make sure when you publish, in the acknowledgement part, you write clearly your grant, the number, whoever the funder is. I have several researchers using my TRGS. They publish, but they never acknowledge the grant that they use from the main grant that we got from TRGS. That is very, very, very insincere thing to do. You got the money, you spend the money, about 250,000 K each, and you never want to acknowledge. It's happening in UMT. Okay, when I started to do my work, I'm telling you about me because I'm doing this without any design. So I started working on distribution of animals. and my focus was on mammal. Then knowing where they are, then we ask the question, berapa ekor? Berapa ekor ada dekat sini, berapa ekor dekat sana? Then from distribution, we talk about the population of those animals found in those areas. Then we talk about the ecology, where they are found, what are the differences, and so on. Then I got the IRPA grant to work on the genetics. So we work on the genetics. Then somehow, I think they were having SARS at that point of time, and I was saying, hey, we capture a lot of animal, why don't you work on the diseases brought by the animal? So we wrote a proposal, sent to KPM, it was rejected, but UNIMAS gave me some money, and 5 of the principal researchers get together and work on various organisms or various pathogens. So we work on the zoonotic diseases. That's why I have papers related to Leptospira and also related to E. coli. Then when I came here, we were talking about livelihood, and we got the 12 years. We were working on SDG, and now we ask the question about the wellness, sejahtera atau tidak. Having this biodi, is the population sejahtera? So dalam kerangka of having your mammal, itu saja. Tetapi janganlah menyimpang ke tempat lain buat roket ke buat submarine. I did not do that. But dalam kerangka ni, so you can do a lot of other thing, but it will come back here. I ask the orang asli, ada ambil binatang, dan dia beritahu binatang apa dia ambil. So kita list down and we put the scientific name and so on. So kita ambil social science, kita letakkan dalam kerangka pure science. So that's what I was doing. And one person marah dengan saya saying that, oh, you tak boleh kerja dalam orang asli sebab itu my domain. There is no such thing your domain or my domain. You have the right research question, you have to answer it. It doesn't mean that you are born to work on orang asli. No, nothing of that sort. So in the nutshell, this is in one paper, you should be able to summarize what are your background, your interests, your publication, your awards, and so on. So I'm very grateful because with all the money, millions, I've been spending millions of taxpayer money, sangat bertuah, and I've written a lot of things with my students, my colleagues, and my friends. Okay, we are a small university. We are ranked number 18 in the country, and I forgot, kita rank berapa in the world? Recent one.
195.
Okay, yeah. We are not that bad. But there are other universities. This is APEC University, the top university, having all the top brain in the world. It doesn't mean that we are no good. I'm sorry to say that. I think some of you in this university are much better, because they are very focused. I will show you some example. This guy is now in our university. So I think he just joined from London, I guess. He's from Iran, if I'm not mistaken, and John Aquatrop. So he's the top person in UMT right now. So please talk to him and ask him all the difficult questions. Don't ask me, ask him. is the top guy. So ini dia, number one in UMT. So number one in UMT. Prof Ikhwan, the director, is number 2 in UMT. And Dr. Lam is number 3 in UMT. I'm not. I'm down there below. But they asked me to talk. Actually, this guy have to talk and this guy have to talk. But somehow, maybe I am not by design, but I redesign myself. These are the top 1% academician in Malaysia. If you can beat them, try to beat them. Number one is the Royal Professor. Royal Professor. And the others are the Professor Ulung. Okay? I was one of the panelists tanya Prof Haris about his research, and he said, Prof, this is what I promised to UM, 50 Q1 paper, dia bagi. And then he said, this is the bonus for UM. So I have no question to ask him. Terima kasih Prof Haris. I think Universiti Malaya should give you more money and get more papers, and also I think dia banyak intellectual property dealing with communication and so on. Ini adalah from UUM talking about Islam and so on. And then ini professor from UKM, a sociologist, banyak benda and their comment and so on, attending a lot of, being invited as adjunct professor, visiting professor. From University of Malaya, working on pathology, and another professor, Professor Raja. He was in UNIMAS, I was in UNIMAS, but he was in other faculty, in the economic faculty. I was in the science faculty, but somehow we were in Kota Semarang before. And Prof Raja is the most recent Professor Ulung in Malaysia. I think we have somebody is going to be Professor Ulung. Bagi je dia opportunity to do his work properly, he's going to be Professor Ulung in Malaysia one day. So we have the top 1% by Scopus subject matter. My colleague from UNIMAS. So very, very high citation. And another colleague in tropical medicine working on Plasmodium, and is also number 1 in Malaysia. We have top people also in Malaysia. So we have Professor, Associate Professor Mohd bin Ismail working on hydrogen. And he can be one of the Professor Ulung kalau dia fokus. Kalau dia fokus and dia get engagement, right engagement, and also be very visible and ada proper networking. InsyaAllah boleh menjadi seorang Profesor Ulung. Tapi a lot of things, groundwork dia kena buat. And our colleague in Sabah also have some of these top people in their campus. So these are the 3 universities with the same age like ours, having top people in the subject matter, and they can become Professor Ulung one day. And these are the emerging researchers that I think in the area of biodiversity, if they focus. Dr. Lam is working on biomass and so on. Dr. Faisal is working on the phylogenetic of mammals. Dr. Khairul is working on the conservation and invasive ecology, as well as fishery, freshwater fish. Dr. Latif in UTHM is working on primate and evolution. So ada orang yang boleh bercakap mengenai evolution di Malaysia. And Dr. Henry Burnett also working on biodi and primate in Borneo. You have ornithologists, Dr. Puan and Dr. Badrul is on conservation biology. So apa saya nampak mereka ini sangat fokus with their work and they know what they are doing. And sometimes, not all the time, I got to read their papers and give some comment as well. So sometimes you have problem, a lot of problem. But you have to see this problem, this mistake as a way forward to move. You have to recognize the mistake. You have to rectify with facts and figures. You have to redesign the entire framework sometimes, the entire research or the entire paper. Okay? This take a lot of your effort, a lot of your thinking. But there are what I call incorrigible situations. Incorrigible. You have tried to do this, still you cannot. You cannot resolve the problem. Then I have to be decisive. Nah, yang ni orang marah. Orang marah. So I will get a new set of biologists, a new set of people and so on. So saya nak highlight dua orang. Pertama ialah Dr. Akila, working on fungi, and the other one ialah Dr. Yoshi, working on natural product. I think this two young person really know how to work. And dia tahu bila saya buat decision is not, bukan saya marah, but I got to be decisive and they have to rethink about what they are doing. So dia akan buat semula dan mengikut apa yang telah dicakapkan. So sometimes there is no hopeless situation. Tidak ada hopeless situation kecuali kita ni, diri kita, we become our own enemy. Kita tidak mau recognize the problem. And we don't want to reassign, realign, reappoint and so on. Reboot something. So saya dah pernah keluarkan editors. So orang lain tanya, kenapa pula you keluarkan editor? Saya kata, benda tak jalan. And now I'm reading all the papers. I got other thing to do. Saya chief editor. Macam mana pula saya kena buat kerja yang sepatutnya associate editor buat? And there are some editor, dia bagi kepada dia punya postdoc baca. So tak boleh. Sebab there are some key question that I will ask you. If you cannot ask that, if I ask you some question, you cannot answer, then I know that whatever comment adalah datang daripada you punya student. Ada profesor yang suruh student yang menulis dia punya comment. So student tulis macam ni. Please put up your trap photograph in the thesis. I said, oh my God, kenapa profesor ni suruh ambil gambar? Ni gambar ni kita letak dalam your appendix, but not in the main text of your thesis. So So some of the common mistakes that you have to recognize. One, if you open your mouth and somebody say, beres. Okay, boss. That is the problem. That is the starting of the whole problem. Beres, boss. Okay, boss. Okay. So bila I hand over the task, you are a PhD, and you took that task, you bagi pada somebody having a bachelor degree, the level of knowledge is not the same. My expectation is the level of PhD. So I got to realign. If I give the task and you give to a N29, it's out of the scope of the N29 to do it, because this is a PhD level of work. And you say, beres, boss. It will never be beres. And some PhD, beres, boss. Bila tanya, oh belum siap lagi. Oh anak I demam lah, laki I demam lah, mak I demam lah. Oh I nak pergi beli lembu lah, I nak beli kambing lah. You talk a lot, you talk a lot, but you are not the 20% doer, orang yang buat kerja. Once upon a time, my dekan, masa tu saya belum ada PhD lagi, saya ketua program. The dekan come to my house at night, saya ingat dalam pukul 10, call me, Tash, are you still awake? Saya kata, yeah, doing some paper. Ni aku ada banyak nyamuk, sorry kat luar. I got a lot of things for you to do. I want this 8 a.m. in the morning. Okay? Because I was the doer. 8 a.m. in the morning, I have the paper he wanted on his table. But why doesn't he send it to the timbalan dekan to do it? Okay, because dia dah screen everybody. Orang ni kau minta pukul 8 nanti siap. And because you will know after some time you have 50% work, tengok dan lihat. Dia tak commit anything. Dia tak comment anything, tak commit anything. Tak buat apa, dia wait and see. So you have this, then you can break down into this. Ini saya yang pengalaman saya bekerja sejak tahun 77 from different PTJ. So saya bekerja from a department to a university to another university. And at the end of the day, it's easy to blame the PTJ. Blame PTJ. Oh, Mr. T give me too much task, so I don't know which one to do. Hello, remember, if you fail to do, I will realign. I will redelegate the task to keep things going. And I think in my lifetime, I think there are about 50 undone tasks because of this problem. Beres, boss? Okay, boss. So these are the common mistakes you can detect if you are head of department and so on. You boleh detect and you kenal dah siapa dua, siapa wait and see. No action, talk only. Cakap aja. Masuk meeting cakap, luar meeting cakap, kedai kopi cakap, jumpa dekat hari raya punya gathering dia cakap. But also mistake is an opportunity. Jangan ingat is something that kita kena pasrah, itu telah ditakdirkan. Saya ditakdirkan retired, so I have retired so many times. But so many times I reboot myself and do things that other people doesn't think that they want to do. So they ask me, Tash, kenapa kau kerja? They ask me that stupid question, why you work? I say the only thing I want to do, kita ni adalah khalifah. yang diutuskan untuk membina umat. Kita adalah khalifah untuk menjana ilmu. Kita adalah khalifah untuk ada zuriat. Kita juga adalah khalifah untuk menolong khalifah-khalifah yang lain. The only thing I know to do is to publish, to do publication. So, apabila saya retired, then re-employ, retired, re-employ, the only thing I know to do is to publish on Biodi. So I've been doing this, and insyaAllah, in June, dah ada paper standby to be printed, to be published. And so dulu dia panggil Biodi, now they call SDG. So benda yang sama. So saya, we have to reflect, let's say for this COVID-19 and work from home. So I told my director, I say, Prof Mazuki, don't worry about me. You just do your work, I do my work, but you can be rest assured I'm going to publish books and journal. So in February, I text to about 20 person, 20, I get only 5 respond. And we drafted manuscript, some being rejected, some having a major correction, some having minor correction. And we have publication already now, but it was during the COVID and work from home. So it's about 20% of those dua will want to work. So what happened to the rest of the 80%? I don't know. I really don't know. But I also receive complaint, Tash, you never invite me. Well, if I never invite you, please volunteer or ask. Please volunteer or you ask. So for instance, we work, Nobi just came here 1 year ago, and we work on some papers being rejected, we rewrite, and then we invite other co-author because we are no good in certain thing. We think, oh, he is better than us. He or she have to look into the other aspect of this paper. They are my friend working for the entire life, and the data was there, the data were there, but was never published. So the question are unpublished data rubbish. Well, there are a lot of issues here. Sometimes your data is with poor design, so it's being rejected. You have poor analysis, it's being rejected. Poor writing, also being rejected. So you ask the question, how much is enough? There are some calculation, how much is enough. I have a paper where the reviewer say it's not enough. I say, okay, sometimes we went to the forest for 2 weeks and we got nothing. So that's how difficult to collect the sample. So this is what we have for 24 months, and the paper get published. So not all unpublished data are rubbish, but if you spend your entire life in the university with data and not being published, then there's rubbish. My philosophy is very simple. I receive a lot of messages and emails. Tash, I think this is wrong. I say, thank you very much for your comment. Why don't you write a rebuttal for that paper and tell and reveal your data? Tak ada pun, dia tak reveal data dia, tapi dia kata saya salah. So it's very difficult in that situation. There are a lot of strategies that I use during my lifetime. One is I attend conferences run by the RU or the expert that I wanted to know and I wanted to listen or I wanted to learn from other IPTA or other IPTF. So you attend. I attended most of these things and met those professors who one day become my assessor. I didn't know that, but finally they told me, "Oh, Tash, actually I wrote the assessment for your blah 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 blah." So I was surprised, but because you attend, you listen, you talk to them, then they will appreciate. You have to be involved with activities or events by the ministries. Some are very important, and please don't reject. Some in Terengganu especially, agencies in Terengganu, they have some event, please attend. If you want to be in Academy of Science, please attend the Academy of Science activities. Also attend activities by NGO, the Malay Nature Society, the World Wildlife Fund. One day, all those agencies will call you and invite you to present a paper or to be the panelist or to be a keynote speaker. And the other strategy, when you go to a conference, do not sit next to your best friend forever. Sit with somebody else, talk with somebody else from other university, because your best friend will be there forever. So it doesn't matter. Tell your friend, oh, today I want to see somebody from Nottingham. He was working on something. So just sit and talk to him.
It's about networking, Prof.
Correct.
Building network.
Correct. I think you have that as the third point.
Yeah.
Networking and visibility. Okay? Yes, you are correct. So this thing is where you have to go here and don't sit with your friend. You network with these people. You network with these people. You network with these people and also you network with NGO. That is very important. You don't ever become a king expecting people to kiss your feet. You have to kiss their feet.
I remember in one of your talks previously during MCO where you said, I think about publication where you yourself go to the agency, to the state government and meet up with them, not waiting for them to call.
Yeah, some professor dia ingat dia king and queen. I'm sorry. Saya panjat tangga, naik lift, meet them and say, why not we work together? And they say, yeah, okay. And they become your friend. Okay, this is very important. Having worked, having published, now you have to think about your promotion and so on. If you don't want to become a professor, then you should stop working in the university and sell burger somewhere at the roadside. But if you are in the university, ultimately, you are going to become a professor. The first thing, your sasya, personality must be very, very good. You jangan kata you bagus, people assess you. You, kalau dia kata sombong, you sombong lah. Kalau dia kata you bagus lah. So you tak kata, oh, I bagus. But other people say, oh no, dia tidak respect. Dia respect cuma kalau VC. Kalau VC dia respect. Kalau saya lecturer cabuk, dia tak respect. And then please remember, when you first work, you have your aku janji, your oath of allegiance. Okay? You ada buat aku janji. And this one, sometimes you forgot. You
Prof.
forgot.
Sorry, Prof, regarding this personality, what is your opinion when nowadays people are trying to to achieve their KPIs and everything, and a lot of research ideas coming in. So what do you think about people who copy other people's idea and they are not in that particular field, and then they take the opportunity to do research in that particular field?
Saya rasa tak bagus lah. So I also receive complaint. Saya menerima complaint. Complaint yang sama in UMT, also in Unimas, and also in other universities. So please work on your subject matter. Your subject matter. Kalau you want to become professor who profess on the social economy, just work on that. So other people will work on rocket science, just focus on rocket science. But if you keep on attending, let's say, conferences, every year you go international conferences. So saya pun pening kepala. Saya sendiri tidak pergi international conferences, but local conferences, do the networking. You don't have an idea of what you actually wanted to be. But if you go to that international conference and one day you are going to write a grant, then yes, you go. So I went to a Nairobi conference, and when I came back, I wrote a grant. I was a co-author of a grant, and we got $1 million from the World Bank. This is World Bank money, and that sort of thing, that is worthwhile. Tapi kalau you nak pergi ke Japan, every year nak pergi Japan, nak pergi Europe, nak pergi Australia, just because UMT give money, I think something is wrong with you. Something is very wrong. And if you want to join all the research just to get your name in there, I think you have to reflect and look back. You nak jadi profesor apa? You nak jadi pakar apa? You nak jadi zoologist, or you want to be a botanist? You ask that question. If you think you are being invited to become a botanist, then focus on your botany. If you are invited to be working on SDG 15, then work on SDG 15, not on SDG other thing. So these are the things that you have to bear in mind. Ada orang, dia tak ada, no, this is the truth, dia tak ada grant dekat UMT. Dia ada berabuk grant dekat universiti lain. Then I say, that even you have 10 grant with UKM, USM, you are just a co-author, but mana you punya PI? You must be a PI in your subject matter. So this is where, as an assessor, we check you whether you are the principal researcher of the grant. You tulis lah you ada 100 grant, but you are just a co-researcher, you will not get full mark from me. You are likely not to get anything from me. Grant will be 0 because you are not a principal researcher. To be a professor, you must be a principal researcher. You cannot become a co anymore. Then having this, you have to have your postgraduate student. You have to be the first supervisor, but when you publish, the postgraduate student will take the first author, and if you are working in a team, one of them will take the corresponding author. You don't worry where you sit. I will sit at the end. Sorry, I will sit at the end, but I show them I am the principal researcher. So orang tidak boleh kata you are a free rider because grant you. Then what would be the impact of your research to the IPTA, to the nation, to the world, and also to your community. Ini kena faham. You are not going to do research for the sake of research, for the sake of Q1, WSQ1, but for the sake of the environment, for the sake of the water, for the sake of the fish. Kenapa you nak buat fish genetic? Oh, I like to change the DNA or make the fish illuminate and so on. So what is really the contribution of illuminated fish for the community? Nothing. It's just for you to do science. You can do science if you have a lot of money. You can illuminate even people and so on. Change the gene, but that is not what the contribution is all about. The contribution must give an impact. So, Dr. Shahreza, terima kasih for inviting me. Also your Pusat Pembangunan Bakat dan Inovasi. And ini somebody told me, if you climb a tree, you have to expect to fall. But you must learn and climb another tree. Inshallah, you will not fall. So some of the reference, we invited 100 people, and finally we have 24 chapters. We invited a lot of people for this one, and because too long, 4 years, and many retract their papers, and now they regret for retracting their papers. It's going to be published as a Springer book, and we have papers with international university. We have grant with them. We have MOU with them. So with one MOU, we have grant, we have papers, we have so many things, and the benchmark of you punya ilmu, you punya research, you punya work is your inaugural lecture. That is the benchmark, and it should be with facts and figures instead of facts, instead of figures. So even in my book, in this book, I have to ask permission from my co-author, permission from my former colleague and so on, to use them and cite them and so on. Itu saja. Kalau ada soalan yang berapi, I try to answer. I'm sorry it's very long.
Maybe we can open if anybody can put it on your chat or can unmute. But at the moment, Prof, I would like to come back to that part tadi. If, for example, how are we how best, or what is your advice if we try to control the one that I said just now, where other people copy the research from the others, even though they are not in their field, and they do that research. And if this happens in the same university, so how to go about with this, Prof?
We have to go back to the university as well as to the PTJ. Okay, Ketua PTJ siapa? Dekan. Correct? Ketua PTJ siapa? Pengarah. Correct? They have to be decisive. Tapi kalau dekan dengan pengarah, ikut hang lah, lantak hang lah. Dia nak publish pasal buah rambutan, and next thing dia publish pasal roket, lantak dia. This is the problem. The pengarah, the director have to be decisive. Dia kena decisive. Apa ke engkau ni buat research macam ni, and doing everything, you become jack of all trades. Tetapi, kalau you dah profesor, you nak buat policy, you nak buat law related to the bidang, it's okay. You are a professor having enough experience. Tapi kalau you just a PhD and a senior lecturer, nak buat semua benda. Saya tahu what you mean. And then letak semua orang dalam you punya paper. Semua orang dia letak. Kalau you check, dia letak ada nama orang ni, ada nama orang ni, ada. Semua orang dia letak. And orang tahu. Saya tahu. You tahu. And then you check. Dia ni bidang apa? Profesor apa? At the end of the day, besok, bila you nak bagi inaugural lecture, you nak bagi apa? You want to talk about everything? Then orang tanya you, what do you profess? Oh, I profess everything. Ini jadi masalah. Then you work on everything. So ada benda yang you boleh work on, ada benda I assume if you are in fish genetic, focus in fish genetic. If somebody say, hey, let's work on this buluh genetic, you say with due respect to you, please ask from person who is trained in the genetic of plant. Okay, so just reject. Saya ada PhD student datang jumpa saya, dia nak study helang. Saya kata minta maaf, kalau you nak study gajah, okay. Helang, I'm sorry. You nak study, ada yang nak study ketam, sorry. You pergilah jumpa Prof Ikhwan. Ada yang nak study tapir, saya kata okay. Tapi jadi masalah pula. PTJ dia tak bagi. PTJ say, no, you cannot work on tapir. Then I say, oh, I'm sorry. Your boss decide you not to work on tapir. Then I cannot force you. So itu saya punya, I don't know whether I answer your question. but
Okay,
you have to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Apa you profess?
Yes.
As a professor.
Because this is because sometimes the juniors they are very worried because they just started their research and then they do a lot of discussion with other people. So sometimes there are people yang take advantage when they get this idea from these juniors and then they start to do this because they have a certain level of power, or maybe they are at the level of, for example, professors. These are the things that some of the juniors are worried last time.
Okay,
I was the TDB last time, Timbalan Dekan Bakat, and then some of them they are worried about that. So since because of this session, that's why I just want to ask you.
So I feel that I'm sorry. Yes, as I've told you, saya pernah question why this professor in your paper. Saya kata kalau you tak buang, I will reject the whole paper. Dia buang. And sekarang ni dia untangle the shackle, you see. So this is kerana saya interfere because I know this have nothing to do with the other professor. Saya pernah ada juga senior lecturer datang jumpa saya, tanya saya, Prof, I just want to ask you, can I put your name here? Saya kata, buat apa you nak letak nama saya? Oh, nanti senang sikit publish dalam JSSM. Saya kata mengarut. Aku reject engkau. I will reject because you put my name. I have nothing to do with your paper. I don't want the name. Then ada juga yang datang, Prof, ni saya punya pengarah suruh letak nama dia. Okay, no problem. Ask your pengarah to write a page. Then dia datang balik. My pengarah did not write a page. Then buang nama dia. Dia buang. Get published. I got a friend who did his PhD in RU. So one night he called me. Tash, aku ni profesor ni dia nak pergi conference. He asked me to take out chapter 4 and reformat and put his name in the front. Then I say, okay, I think you tell him nicely, this is my chapter and I should be the first author. You can take corresponding author. And yeah, he did that. And the supervisor, use the paper for the conference as a corresponding author, but not as a first author. If you do your PhD, you must be the first author. You have to stand by it. So semua PhD student saya become the first author. Yang paper baru ni, Dr. Aida, dia ambil first author, dia ambil corresponding author. Padahal saya boleh kata, Aida, this is my grant, I should be corresponding author. Tak, I think she need that more than me. Tapi saya tak setuju kalau the new person kena bully. Ini academic bully. Bukan sekolah aja bully. Academician pun bully.
Can be considered bully ya kan Prof?
Bully lah, ini bully. Kau jadi pengarah, kau bully kau punya staff because last time you kena bully. Okay. But ni saya nak reflect my experience. Saya juga pernah jadi ghost author. Pernah. But when I reflect balik, rupanya that was my training to become a writer. So I wrote to my, letak nama bos. Nama saya tak pernah keluar dan tak ada dalam dia punya acknowledgement pun. But that was my training. So I think about it, I wrote about it, and they correct. But my boss correct, dia correct, and pakai mesin type semula, padahal dia ada PA. Tak, saya tukang type, tak apa. But that was the training. So I was so grateful that he trained me actually to write better paper, to think about the paper. So saya sampai hari ni, I feel very grateful to be given the opportunity to write. And dia bawa paper tu keluar negara dekat conference without my name. Tak ada nama saya. But kalau kita ikhlas, tidak apa, dia nak guna ke apa, lantak dia. Okay, another scenario. This is another scenario. Saya dijemput untuk interview. So dalam interview dia tanya saya, what are you going to do? Saya bagi the whole set of the idea of what I was going to do. And then saya balik, saya tak dapat that job walaupun dia panggil. I was the only one they want to interview. And then one day I received a phone call from Deputy Director General. Hey Tash, I just want to ask you, is this your paper? So he read the title, the entire title. Then yeah, that is my proposal. Yeah, now somehow this guy brought this paper to MDEC. You know MDEC? MDEC to get money, and they received 1 million, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, this is the problem. They changed the cover of that proposal, get the money, but when come to the execution of that proposal, they cannot execute. Why? Because I only give the concept. I did not give the detail how you want to do it. The concept. If you are not the subject matter expert, you can copy, but you cannot execute. That is the difference. So, ujung-ujung, that person being kicked out. Dia pun dibuang, walaupun dia dapat menggunakan saya punya proposal. So I was lucky that my friend saw the proposal because the night before we were having dinner, then I said, nanti dalam interview ni aku nak bagi idea ni. What do you think? So dia baca, dia komen and so on. So he saw that proposal, and then orang lain sudah ambil. Itu berlaku. Another event was we asked money from the KPT, and then there was a change in government. Ada election. So I was supposed to send the corrected macam revision of the grant back to KPT. And then bila bertukar, everybody bertukar. Menteri bertukar, ketua pengarah bertukar and so on. Then bila ketua pengarah duduk in the meeting, oh, I don't know about this. This is not under my radar. Pula dah. Then saya cakap, the previous DG kata, I just got to do the correction. So it happened that way also. Then sometimes you are just in the wrong place, wrong time, and so on. Okay, I got another situation. I submitted FRGS. Saya was the principal researcher, and also I was the head of the cluster. Okay, and then when the KPT announced the FRGS, it was not my name, somebody else name. Then I asked that guy, hey, how come your name become the PI? Actually, Taj, sorry lah, we forgot to tell you lah. You banyak sangat grant lah. Apa ni? Saya banyak grant and they just throw out my name and not even a co-researcher. But saya halalkan. But you see, walaupun saya halalkan, that group having my grant, my proposal, they cannot execute because the concept, the idea, the theory was with me. Saya the owner of those concept and idea. So that grant was supposed to be used by the master student. Dia cuma mampu ada bachelor student. You see the level tu sudah lain. Saya proposal untuk masters. So kerana mereka tidak boleh execute because they were not in that subject matter. Ini question you tadi. Dia bukan subject matter expert. Dia tak boleh execute sepenuhnya. Bachelor level bolehlah lulus dapat bachelor, but the level is very low compared to master's level. I got another situation because I got a lot of proposal. So tak apalah, you become the PI, saya become co. Bila kita ambil dua, so kita dah agree. We agree. You take, sebab ada dua masters, you take one master student, I take one master student. But when my master student wanted to use the grant, tak boleh. Tak boleh dah. So my master student came, oh Mr. T, saya macam mana nak pergi field work? Tak apalah Hana. See, so I got to use profesor ke AP ke senior lecturer, dia ada duit, nama dia duit apa?
Elang kerajaan ke apa?
Elang kerajaan. Okay, so I use my elang kerajaan
kerajaan
entertainment allowance to I say, okay, this is the entertainment allowance I got. Ini pergi buat research. So dia pergilah ke Penang, fly from Kuching to Penang. Okay, that's one case. Another case, we wanted to work with ASM, but the boss did not sign untuk pergi sampling. Then then Wahab datang jumpa saya, Mr. T, kita punya application nak pergi sampling kena reject lah. Kenapa pula reject? Kita bukan guna duit universiti. Tak tahulah. So people thought if you work in Terengganu, you must be in Terengganu. If you work in Selangor, you must be in Selangor. That is bullshit. If you work in certain theory, certain theory, the theory covers the whole of Malaysia, irrespective of where you work. It can be you are in UMT or you can be in Borneo, but the theory works in Malaysia. So you have to go and sample the whole of Malaysia. What we did was, so sama juga, so saya paksa keluarkan saya punya allowance. So saya kata, Wahab, nah ni allowance kau pergi ambil cuti. So dia ambil cuti untuk pergi sampling dengan student saya. So, ini Profesor, hello Profesor, AP, senior lecturer. Don't ever say you don't have money. The government give you entertainment allowance and use that money for this purpose. So jangan kedekut sangat ilmu, kedekut sangat duit, you tak ada dapat ilmu. Okay. Bila you buat macam tu, semua benda you guna sendiri. And I was involved with a lot of engagement with academy science, okay? Nampak? So the Academy of Science would recognize you. So you just work and work. Orang tak bagi keluar, you ambil cuti, you keluar. But they recognize that, saya tanya Pak Teh macam mana you recommend saya for ESM. Dia kata, Taj, you have rewrite the zoological documentation of Borneo. So saya nak tunjuk. If you are a professor, not every professor menjadi ahli akademi sains. If you are ketua pengarah, not all ketua pengarah become ahli akademi sains. Somebody have to recommend you. So saya been recommended by professors in UKM to become ahli akademi sains. Dan apa yang ditulis di sini ialah di atas pencapaian dan sumbangan yang unggul kepada sains, kejuruteraan dan teknologi bagi pembangunan negara. Okay, so my only work was working on animal in Borneo, published in Sarawak Museum Journal and local journal. Bukan Q1 pun, but they recognize it, rewrite the whole chapter. So when they wanted to write on the book of mammal of Borneo, mereka terpaksa refer 15 daripada publication kami. Terpaksa. Dulu semuanya orang putih. Sekarang adalah orang Melayu, ada orang Malaysia, adalah local student been cited by orang putih. Kalau tidak, dia orang putih cite orang putih. Dia kata, kita ni tak reti buat research, tak reti collect data, tak reti analyze data. I don't think so. So, this is the top of the recognition you get, and this is the act of parliament. Parliament recognize, Parliament of Malaysia. Ini bukan society you register ROS. So that is your ultimate. Jadi profesor, adakah orang akan your peer? This is your peer.
Recognize now.
Your peer recognize you, bukan you shock sendiri. You tak boleh shock sendiri. Takkan menjadi. But to get here was kita terpaksa berdampingan dengan mereka daripada awal tanpa apa-apa not thinking that one day they are going to recommend you or to put you on board with them. So these are the things that you have to fikir dari sekarang. So that in the future everybody knows you. People knows you. Bila sebut fish genetic, oh Shah, kita kena panggil Shah. If you don't call him, something is wrong. So that something like that. So when they wanted to work on the new law, wildlife law, they called me and to be in the committee to work on the revision of the Wildlife Act before 2010. So those sort of things that you have to do, walaupun dalam keadaan kadang-kala menggunakan duit sendiri. Dan please remember, if you up there, please look down there. your emerging researcher. Tarik dia orang sekali, tarik the emerging researcher. So saya kadang-kala saya suruh Dr. Amir, boleh kau replace me for this meeting. So dia pergi so that dia will be engaged by the ministry or by the agency. So bila you sudah jadi ketua PTJ or professor, please help those senior lecturers, those AP and so on to move up the ladder.
So, thank you very much, Prof. Kita dah terlajak masa and a lot of things. Saya rasa the participant can get the whole idea of what research career is all about. But saya nak ringkaskan ini, Prof. From what I see, from your sharing, the most important thing as an academician to chart your research career is to have a conceptual framework first and your research framework. This is to avoid from you being rojak or you're copying other people's work.
Correct.
And you don't got too tied up dengan KPI dan sebagainya. Even though KPI we need to penuhi, tetapi biarlah penuhi dengan the correct way of doing things.
Correct.
And then another thing that I pick up is from the start, you need to learn first from other people. That is where you become, apart from trying to be a principal project leader, but try also to be the co-researcher from other professors so that you learn the way. And tracking your research also is important. That is why, like you showed to me just now, check in the WOS Scopus so that you know where you are. And at least you know if people were to see you, people will see you in what way. And also visibility and the most important thing I see here is integrity. So no matter what you do, you know that at the end of the day, it will get promoted to professors and everything, the research grant. Integrity plays the most important role.
And when you are up there, please help those
To bring others.
You swim with them. You don't leave them. So macam saya cakap tadi, I was very fortunate working with Akila, Dr. Yoshi. Dalam keadaan macam mana pun we were together producing publication or doing something. Walaupun benda berbeza, tapi when it come to publication, we talk on the same wavelength. And so on. So biasanya bila you dah jadi profesor, you bakar tangga. Please don't burn the bridge. Please don't burn the ladder, because you have a nasty fall. Nobody will find you. Dia jatuh macam tembikai. So we must be graceful enough to help. So where I am now, I was being helped by a lot of professors in UNIMAS, professors in UMT, professors in UKM. UKM banyak membantu saya. Poktih banyak membantu saya. So I'm very grateful to them. Dan juga the professors yang dekat sini yang give me the challenge to work harder, because ada yang ingat saya datang ini habis beras je. I'm sorry. I produce a lot of books, won a lot of award, and also I have mentored a lot of students than any other professor, I think. Boleh tengok saya punya list of name, those are majority are my students yang publish dengan saya.
So, okay, Prof. Thank you very much again. Thank you very much for others. One last thing from me. Please do contact Mr. T if you want to get a lot of other information. I know that within these 2.5 hours is not enough, but again, mentoring needs time. So we have in UMT, just like Prof showed to us. For example, in library, we have a lot of resources UMT provide. The same with lecturers. We have a lot of mentors here for the lecturers to go and meet up. So please do meet up with one of our mentors, that is Mr. T, Prof. Taj. So with this, I close this session with thanks again, Prof, for having this session and also the participant. So Assalamualaikum and have a good lunch, everyone. With this, I end this session. Okay, Prof?
Terima kasih.
Okay, sama.
Boleh share the PDF file
Okay.
dalam apa ni, dalam chat box. So you just throw in the chat box
Okay.
the PDF yang I bagi you tadi. Or the other thing, they can also go to my Touch Abdullah YouTube channel. It's a very brief one, about 3 minutes. This one is about 2 hours punya talk, and thanks for inviting me.
Try to paste. Okay. For those at the moment, I will try to post in the link from PPBI Facebook. So
Okay.
try to get the notes, the PDF notes from PPBI Facebook. I will ask Cik Hadila, our host, to put up there. Then you all can download from there.
Okay, then kalau ada link link for this chat,
The videos ni.
you let me know, because I receive messages. They were asking me, let me have your link because they want to watch later.
Okay. Dear Cik Hadila has put on the link. You can have a look over here.
Very much. Thank you. I'll get that. Terima kasih.
Okay, Prof. Assalamualaikum. Salam sejahtera.
Salam.